Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. It is 4 minutes past the hour, 31st day of October, the last day of October. Halloween for those who celebrate this day for the trick-or-treaters and all that good stuff. The kiddies out there going to get the candy. And the day that we celebrate also the winning of the World Series by the Los Angeles Dodgers. I see my man Fatim in his LA Dodgers gear. Yours truly, Joe Dupree, in the building from 100 BLK, the Black Station at www.the100blk.com. My brother from another mother, you know him from the open lines, on lines, and keeping it real with Reverend Al Sharpton. It is Brother Fatim in the building. 1075 WBLS in New York City. Good morning.
Good morning, Joe. Good morning, good morning, good morning, my brother. How you doing? How you doing? You wake up and put a little Ohio players on, then come down and smooth it out with a little Luther Vandross there and get you in the groove. I am off for 2 days. Unfortunately, I will not be on tomorrow because I'm headed down to Tennessee for a retreat. So I'll be there for the weekend. Yes, right. Be careful out there. As you said, those that do get out there and do Halloween, be careful with the kiddies. They got this thing here in South Carolina where you ride through and the kids can jump off the car, or out of the car, or back of the truck, and run into the houses. They have them decorated and get whatever candy and whatever. So it's more of a community thing. So we'll do that this evening with my cousins, my little cousins and family members. And yes, the Dodgers made me break out my Dodger gear. You've never seen me wear my Dodger gear here. But congratulations to the Los Angeles Dodgers beating the Yankees 4-1, took it in their house. When in their house, they came through and beat two New York teams, the Mets and the Yankees, and they are the world champions. So congratulations to them, and congratulations to all the teams that made the playoffs for Major League Baseball. Baseball is over. Now I can concentrate more, as I said, on football, as basketball season has also kicked off, and the New York Knicks and the Brooklyn Nets here, in the tri-state area, holding their own and doing their thing. But we got a long season here. So football, collegiate football, basketball, hockey, if those are involved. We have two hockey teams in New York, the Rangers and the Islanders. So, sorry, Jackson, the Jersey folks. We got the New Jersey Devils too. I forgot we got 3 hockey teams in the tri-state area. So good morning to everybody. We got an interesting show for y'all today.
We do, as the show goes forward. We're going to get into some interesting conversation. Good morning to everyone who's in the chat. Let me go ahead and open up the phone lines right now. 225-250-8770. 225-250-8770. We are broadcasting live on 3 platforms. You can catch us on Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube. And about this time, this is what I do in case you want to jump in the green room. You might be bold enough to say, I want to be a part of this show. We allow you to do that on this podcast. We can see your lovely face and you can come on here and speak what's on your mind. So I just put the link out there on YouTube. I'm getting ready to put it on Instagram. I see a lot of folks are logged in on Instagram. Good morning to all my G fam. I see you. So we're going to put that out there on the gram. And I'll be putting it on Facebook momentarily. Woke up this morning feeling wonderful. So you'll be in Tennessee. I'll be heading to the great state of Alabama. Be exact, northern Alabama. I'll be headed to Huntsville, Alabama tomorrow. So tomorrow, get ready, family. After this Halloween, we're going to give you a best of tomorrow. We'll be back Monday. And you can enjoy these final days, because we are at the final days to the 2024 election, which will decide who will be the president of the United States for the next 4 years. And also down ballot, there's a lot of decisions being made outside the presidency. There are people who are electing everything from council. Let's start at the bottom. Everybody from councilmen and school board members to mayors to local senators and congressmen to governors. There is a lot of elections going on. There are amendments going on the ballots, things going on that affect your taxes. Remember, all elections and all government literally starts local. So before you start talking about Trump and Biden, make sure that you know what's going on in your own backyard, because that affects more of your taxes, the cost of living in your area, the quality of life. Be involved with what's going on in your community, and always be prepared to do your civic duty, which is get engaged, get involved, get informed, and go vote. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
you're
part.
right, Joe. Let me just say this. This is interesting. You know, yesterday, after Reverend Sharpton's nationally syndicated show, Keeping It Real, his daughter, Dominique Sharpton, his eldest daughter, was holding it down while Reverend Sharpton was in Las Vegas. At times, you guys see me doing this show, I'm on my phone, and I'm not really being disrespectful. I'm talking to a lot of different people. But for the past couple of days, I've been in direct contact with former President Barack Obama's team. And we set up an interview yesterday with former President 44, with Reverend Sharpton, who was in Las Vegas. And I learned some things from President Obama, and he said some things that made sense. And he said that, you know, politics doesn't solve all our problems. And and he was, of course, he's pushing Vice President Kamala Harris, but he said even Vice President Kamala Harris and Governor Walz won't make the world a great place, but you put it on the trajectory to become that great place, and that's what you want to do. And he talks about what our role and what our part is, that voting, what voting does. When you go out there and cast that vote, don't think that all your problems will go away. But what you're doing is you're voting for the process, and look how far we've come. And you want to put your vote out there for folks that can make a difference. And like he said, put us online to become that great nation that we should be, or we strive to be. That's what he said. So that interview will play this afternoon on Reverend Sharpton's Keeping It Real with Reverend Al Sharpton's nationally syndicated radio show. If anybody, so I didn't see Good Morning America since I was off. I decided I'm not getting up and doing the regular routine what I do this morning, but I sent it over to the producers over at MSNBC yesterday. So Reverend Sharpton was supposed to be on Morning Joe this morning, and they were supposed to play excerpts from that interview. I out of respect to Reverend Sharpton, I will not play any excerpts here. I am the one that edit the audio. I'm sorry, the audio interview. But I will let Reverend Sharpton play that first on his radio show. That's the respectful thing. And then we'll take it from there if we need some clips next week or whatever. But it's a great interview, and you gotta hear former President Barack Obama and how he's not out here. He just lays it out. He talks about Trump. He lays it out. He talks about the economy. He talks about the checks that people said Donald Trump gave checks. He said, "Oh, wait a minute. Let's be real.
No, he did.
You got checks. No. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. He did.
No.
He did.
He
John, said, let me finish. He said,
yeah, go ahead.
He said he gave checks. He said Trump gave checks. He said, they go Reverend Sharpton now on MSNBC. And he said Biden gave checks backed up by the Congress. He said that him and Biden decided this is not political. This is for the people. Our names are not going to be on these checks. What Trump did is put his name on the check. You understand? This is about the people. And he said, but what's the problem is, by us not putting our names on the checks and Trump putting his name on the checks, it made it seem that Trump was the only one that did this, and we all did it. And then he talked about the economy. He said, I handed Trump. He said, for the next 2 years of Trump's administration, that wasn't Trump's administration. That wasn't Trump's economy. That was my economy. And he's not coming from an egotistical point of view. He said, I inherited from George Bush, the son, Bush. And he talked about people foreclosed, companies going under. He saved this country. He said, I'm not on an egotistical thing. This is the reality. And let's put it into perspective. You did not do better under Trump than you've done under Biden, unless that's how your trajectory, your trajectory in life, that maybe you lost your job or something like that. But the economy, we went through inflation, and look where inflation has come down. Look at the job market. Look at the stock market now. So you got to look and understand, and a lot of people are just not politically astute when it comes to politics out there, and you need to get out there. We get emotional. We go on sound bites. You need to understand the terrain out there. And that's the bottom line. And he did it so well. You know, he's a great orator, but he pauses a lot. So it took me 2.5 hours to edit maybe 20 minutes of audio. It took me 2.5 hours to edit that. I didn't change no words. I take no words out. I took breath out or a double word. It's like that. But I would not change his words. Those are his words, and you'll get a chance to hear it later today.
Yeah, definitely tune in to Keeping It Real with Reverend Al Sharpton if you catch it on any of the radio stations that it broadcasts on. You can catch it at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, which is 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sirius XM 126 if you have the Sirius app or
Urban
Sirius
View.
Radio. Yeah, on Urban View. If you have that in your vehicle, I listen every day to Rev's show. Dominique has been doing a great job. His eldest daughter, as she always introduces herself as, been doing a great job. It's just great information. And, I see people saying scare tactics. The truth is never scare tactics. As yesterday it was said to me, and it was said with the great Angelo Ellisby, the elder himself that came on here and graced us with his presence. The truth is never on strike. Truth is never on strike. So
scare tactics, scare tactics. Scare tactics.
Stephen, even if the truth may not all of a sudden support your point of view or make you look right, the truth is still the truth. And the truth is never on strike.
Scare tactics. Scare tactics. Since we got some reverends coming on, I'm going to make my statement when the reverends come on today, because I got to say something, because I say whatever word I want to say out my damn mouth. But scare tactics.
17 minutes.
Douglas Guidry, I saw something you put out there. You put out here, scare tactics. Tell me, defend Madison Square Garden in New York City Sunday night, brother. Talk about that. That scare tactics, that racist trope, that racist rally,
you mean the Nazi
rally?
The Nazi rally.
Sexist rally? You talking about scare tactics? You know what? You know what? I want the opposite, man. The movie The Watermelon Man. Douglas Guidry, you need to wake up one day and be a white man, and I think you'll walk around and you'll be more comfortable in your skin. I think you will be. I really do. I don't have a problem you liking Trump, but one thing I don't like is that you twist and make up things and try to push false narratives. When you push false narratives and don't call out a man that is what he's done and what the party has done and the things they have said to people, January 6th, all these things, a litany of things, and you're going to come out here and talk about scare tactics. A man, President Obama and his family is a stand-up individual. And that's all you got is scare tactics, brother. It's a shame. It's a shame. And it's a shame. And a lot of people say, well, Fatim, why do you let them get to you? Because if I say what I really want to say, y'all wouldn't like what I really got to say. Sometimes we got to make example of these individuals. I'm trying to be nice this morning. We have to make examples of these individuals. We got to make it where it's not comfortable. It's one thing to support the other side that you may disagree with. I disagreed with certain Republicans, but the way the core and they debate their issue, I have respect for them. There's certain Republicans that I respect. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. It is because they debate the issue, they stand on their ground, but they don't bring in all this crap. And that's what I'm saying. But when you stand up for crap and when you stand up against racism, and especially what we have gone through in this country, I never, ever forget. I don't give a damn if I didn't pick a cotton or put in tobacco or cut sugar cane. I'm not going to forget what our ancestors done. And ain't no way that I'm going to put a false narrative out as a black man in this country to let other black people look at me and see me do that. And when black people do that, I try to make an example of them. It's not because you support them, you support the opposite side. It's because you support an opposite side that wants to eradicate us. And that's the problem. Because if they had a choice, they would exterminate us. And you want to stand with them? Please, I will make an example of you every damn day, every damn day.
Well, Brother Fatim, you know, the thing that makes me laugh is, and it kind
That
of
is a scare tactic.
It kind of reminds me when we were children. You know, when we were children, or better yet, when we were youth, and you always had that one class clown, and he would always prank folks and crack on folks, and it was always ha funny until he got cracked on and somebody out cracked him. You know, they bring a comedian out that literally says Puerto Rico is a floating piece of garbage out in the ocean. Puerto Rico and Puerto Ricans are Americans. So now we talk about our fellow citizens in such a derogatory way that, listen, so it's one thing to talk about people that are perceived to be immigrants, which I completely don't agree with the Haitians eating the dogs and eating the cats. But then you talk about your fellow American citizens, because Puerto Ricans are Americans in such a derogatory manner. And that's where it lets me know your true feelings about people who are not non-melanated like yourself. Because Puerto Ricans fall into black and brown folks category. So it's a floating piece of garbage in the ocean who are fellow American citizens. So if that's how he would talk about that group of fellow American citizens, how do you really feel about black and brown folks?
He already called our nation shithole nations, Joe. He already did that. He already did that.
Well, once again, Brother Fatim, what he did to the right. And once again,
look what he did to the Central Park Five that is exonerated five.
Right.
Come on, man. Why do we have to keep going through this litany of lists? He shows his colors, and we say the same thing. Not scare tactics. And the bottom line is, I don't mind debating the issues. Somebody says, well, if you don't support Vice President Kamala Harris, why A, B, and C? You don't have to support Vice President Kamala Harris, but you don't have to support a piece of garbage. Since they want to call things garbage, oh, well, I'm taking out the trash. Right. So let me take out some more trash this morning.
Right. Let me say to you what you said to us. And see, that's the thing. Then all of a sudden, everybody, when you get called the same things you've been calling folks, then all of a sudden you're in the wrong. And I'm like, so let me understand this. You can call me whatever you choose to call me. But when I respond in kind, now there is a problem. No, you said it. I responded in kind. Let's see how it's taken. But no, now you want to run with it because, mind you, when you call Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage, you're calling fellow American citizens, some who have honorably served. And the last time I checked, Donald Trump, you ain't served in the military. Some who are not convicted felons. Last time I checked, Donald Trump, you're a convicted felon. Some Puerto Ricans who are outstanding citizens who have never sexually said anything like grab them by the private parts or been convicted of any type of sexual crime. You know, those are your fellow American citizens who are a much more outstanding character, even if for those who, since we are bringing on pastors, so even those who would measure the standards of the Bible would say, wait a minute, these people ain't committed adultery. These people ain't stole. These people ain't lied. These are your fellow American citizens, but you said they live on an island that is an island of garbage, just a floating piece of garbage out there in the ocean. Okay. But then when that is reciprocated back to you and bringing up the things that you did to put you in a position of your trash yourself, You're trash. Yes, sir. You're trash, as Bubba Dub would say. Then all of
Yeah,
a sudden, look at how you're calling me and those who support me trash. Well, guess what? As Bubba Dub says, sometimes you got to look at it the way it is. And if you're trash, you're trash.
Somebody, I'm not even mentioning names this morning, said that, oh, if Cat Williams would have said the same thing, we would have laughed. Stop it, bro. And said it to you, Joe. And I was like, stop it. You know, we've called out comedians before. We've called out comedians when they've done what said or pushed the line. We know when there's a time and a place for certain things, and we got that. We understand that. That was a rally for a presidential candidate. You know what I'm saying? And for that, and for them to book that person that is known to do this. And see, that's the whole thing, Joe. It has to be called out. Because if you're going to call out wrong, it has to be called out by all people. And if white people could call it out, it's amazing that Eddie Bonnet or Douglas Guidry can say, oh, if Cat Williams said that, you would laugh. Stop it, bro. But now even Republicans call that out. Republicans, how is you as a black person still saying some crap what you just said just now, but white Republicans and conservatives call that out? That's what I'm saying, Joe. Sometime I told you, I've said this before, just like when I worked at Macy's on 34th Street and Herald Square and Midtown Manhattan. We prosecuted people that stole from us, but we prosecuted people that were part of us harder. And I think that that's why I go hard at our own people, because you should know better. You should know better. You should know better. You should know better. But I bet you if you went in that office today and Mr. White manager says, you know what that comedian said was wrong, I bet you, yeah, man, you're right, man. You shouldn't have said that. But when we say it on this podcast, you got something to say. Your Uncle Bubba's handkerchief head. Don't get Joe. Let's talk about something else, man.
Yeah.
Talk about something else.
All right. It is Halloween. And let me ask you something, Brother Fatim. Let's throw something out there as we prepare for our guests to hopefully start trickling their way in. I know some of them had dealt with one of the guests that I asked to come on. Let's keep him lifted in prayer. He reached out for me this morning. His mother got rushed to the hospital. So let's keep him lifted in prayer as he deals with whatever health issues his mother is going through at the present moment. But let's talk about Halloween for a second. When you were a child or when you were young, did you celebrate Halloween? And if you did, tell me one of the costumes that you wore.
That's simple. I mean, of course, I grew up in a neighborhood like the Little Rascals. It was about 14 to 20 of us just on one block. And then you got to realize the way our streets, we went block, 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 block. So each block, you know, from Hawthorne Street to Fenimore Street, my block, I was on Flatbush between Rutland Road, Midwood Street, Maple Street, Lincoln Road. We all had blocks. And on those blocks was a lot of kids. You understand? So we had our own block, but then we all came out. We hit the apartment buildings and stores because I lived on Flatbush Avenue. Anybody knows about Brooklyn. In the Prospect Park area is nothing but stores over there on Flatbush Avenue, especially back then, where we went trick-or-treating. And then my father was a super. But even with that, you know, back then people used to put pens in candy and do all kind of things. So I remember coming home and my mom was like, don't touch none of that candy until I can go through it. You understand what I'm saying? But one of the costumes that I always wanted, my mother was making me a costume, but I was bad in the house one day. She threw it away. She was making me a Superman costume, a real Superman costume. But Superman was one of my favorite things, Spider-Man, you know, one of those action figures. I was never really as scared, you know, into the gore and the scary stuff. Back then, it was just more Spider-Man, Superman, because we were kind of rambunctious kids. We climbed rocks. We live. They're not like they similar to brownstones. Similar to brownstones. Our area wasn't brownstones, but we had those houses, and you had steps. Man, we used to climb up the side. We used to stop. We jumped down. That's the kind of kids. We rode bikes. We did everything. Go-kart. We built go-karts. You understand? Find old shopping carts, take the wheels off, and build go-karts. Did all that. So that's what we did. So yeah, I was into Halloween, and then when we got a little older, got a little better, and we started egging. And of course, I had to dip in and dip out. And I told the story how I got busted. I was egging on another block, and I came, and my father said, "Why are you coming from around there?" I just said, "Well, I came from my friend's house." And he said, "What's that wet in your jacket pocket?" I had an egg that busted my pocket. I couldn't say nothing. My father said, "Get your ass upstairs." So that was that.
So it is Halloween, and I laughed. I'm like you. I didn't do a lot of the scary, gory stuff. I dressed up one year when I was very small as Bruce Lee, and I made some homemade nunchucks out of a broomstick, and I'll never forget that. My dad helped me go to the saw. We had a little sawmill in the back because we lived in rural Tennessee, and we had chicken coop, and we had a smokehouse. We had a wood pile because we had a wood burning stove in our house. And I remember getting with my dad and getting with the saw and making some homemade nunchucks. Speaking of which, we don't want to carry on.
I got real nunchucks, brother.
Well, I mean, I made some homemade.
I made mine too. I made mine, but I have some real nunchucks.
I had some real ones later on in life, but at this time, we didn't have eBay and all that stuff you could order stuff from. So I actually made some. Pastor Mike is in the green room, so
let's bring him on.
Decided to bring some pastors on. I'm waiting for some other pastors, but I'm gonna bring Pastor Mike in because we really need to get into this conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna let Brother Fatim introduce this brother. Pastor Mike, welcome to hashtag Truth Be Told.
Hey, how you doing, brother?
There you go. That's my brother sitting right there. So let me give him his proper introduction here, because this is a good brother of mine, and we did Harlem Week for my radio station 107.5 WBLS. He was on the panel, so I call him, he's known as Pastor Mike, but I always say Reverend Michael A. Walron Jr., who is the senior pastor of First Corinthians Baptist Church in Harlem, and National Action Network's board member, director of the National Action Network's Minister Division, and author of his new book, Searching for Agabus, Embracing Authenticity and Finding Your Way. And that's the book. That's the book right there. And let me just give you a little bit more. I know the brother, with the accolades, but he also co-hosts every Tuesday, The Last Hour, on Reverend Sharpton's nationally syndicated radio show, Keeping It Real with Reverend Al Sharpton. He has appeared on or written for Good Morning America, NBC News, The Wall Street Journal, New York Amsterdam News, The Huffington Post, and the New York Times, CNN, and much more. Pastor Mike, welcome to hashtag Truth Be Told, my brother. Good morning again to you.
Thank y'all for having me this morning. I appreciate that. Good to be here.
Sounds good. There's supposed to be another pastor supposed to be joining us, but my host here, Joe, has said that the pastor had notified him that they had to rush his moms to the hospital this morning, so we're not sure if he's going to join us. But this is a conversation that we wanted to have with some pastors. We kind of started it last week and talking about the Black church. So, Joe, I'll throw it to you and let you throw out that first, the introduction of this conversation, and let's jump in here.
First, Pastor Mike, I really am honored and thank you for taking time out, my brother, for coming on here. Many a times in this thing that we call life, and people use these sayings like life be lifing, folks ask, where is the church in all of this, in these conversations about us getting out to vote, certain stances on certain issues that will affect the vote, and where is the Black church at, period? And it is funny because we do have some people that are in our chat room who always bring up the evangelical stance on things, and I laughingly said to one of them, what ceases to amaze me is how a person can stand 10 toes down and say, I'm not voting for Vice President Harris. I don't deal with the Democrats. They support the LGBTQA+ community. And in the Bible, that's a sin. That's a terrible sin. And then when I flip it on them and say, yeah, but so is lying, because in the 10 Commandments, it says, thou shalt not lie. It says in the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not commit adultery. It says in the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not steal. Those are just 3 of the 10 commandments that Moses brought down from the mountaintop. Are we just turning a blind eye to those when it comes down to the Republican Party when they lie, steal, and commit adultery? And then my response is, but what about then the same folks who crucify the homosexuals turn around and say, but what about forgiveness? And I just have to laugh. And I say, the point is we all sin and fall short of the glory of God. If you're using the Bible from a moral standpoint, everybody's wrong. So what are the issues that are your issues that would make you say, I'm either with this or with that? But the main question is, where does most of the Black church, or better yet, sir, explain to us, where are the Black pastors that you know, where's the Black church on this issue of how do we move forward in a world like this, especially with voting and us getting out there to engage in voting and voting for the candidate that is best for us and our people? Go ahead, sir.
Man, that's a lot you asked, and I'm gonna answer it piece by piece. So, but I have to give a context. So, I've been a pastor now for a total of 28 years, and I've been preaching for 34 years. Here's what I will tell you: there's a difference between what we call Christianity and what I would call following the way of Jesus or the teachings of Jesus. Christianity as an institution created, is really shaped by 3 ideas: oppression, domination, and conquest. We don't realize that because we think of Jesus. But Jesus, in terms of the teachings of Jesus, is completely different from what we formed in this institution called Christianity. People don't realize that the foundations of Christianity as a religious institution are shaped in 325 AD. Now think about it. 325 is almost 300 years after the death of Jesus. So when you get this coming, you have an institution being formed 300 years after the death of Jesus. And the question is, what were those people who followed the teachings of Jesus, who were disciples, did for almost those 300 years? They did not create institutions like we know it. They honored the community. They built community. They served with one another, lived one another, took care of one another for almost 300 years under persecution by the Roman Empire. It's not until 325 when the Emperor Constantine says, okay, we basically want to no longer persecute Christians, and begin actually to set up this institution. Why? Because different factions of Christianity were appealing to the emperor, because the emperor was giving money to the Christian church because he felt he had been converted. That emperor was Constantine. And so now he got weary of all these different factions competing and vying for money from the empire. And he then tells the Christians, get together and form what you want to believe as a whole. That's when you get what is called the Council of Nicaea. Why do I say all this? Because as an institution, Christianity is shaped under the unction of the empire, which is wrong. So that it should be no surprise that there are these imperialistic leanings within the institution of Christianity, as opposed to people who are committed to honoring the teachings of disciples. Jesus said, go make disciples. He did not say, go build cathedrals, go build big churches. He didn't say, use my teachings to now weaponize against people you don't like. He said, go make disciples. And here's how you make disciples according to Jesus. 1, he says you baptize. And 2 is the part we leave out. Teach them what I taught you. What does that mean? We teach what we believe about Jesus. We don't teach what Jesus taught his disciples. Big difference. Yeah. So we have framed an entire religion around doctrinal ideas about Jesus, but not teaching what Jesus taught. So the religion about Jesus is different from the religion of Jesus. And we have not necessarily gravitated towards the religion of Jesus. We've been more committed to the religion about Jesus. That's a highly theological conversation, but it's one that is worth having. Now, why do I say that? Because think about it. In Christianity as an institution shaped again by oppression, domination, and conquest. Think about it. It was easy for a person, right? He said this, it is easy for a person to then come, watch this, to come and go to church, watch this, go to church, come out of church, and then go to a lynching. There was no inconsistency by whites during slavery. They felt that you could be a Christian and still hold slaves. You could be a Christian and still lynch black bodies. You could be a Christian and still rape black women, because the institution, again, is shaped by dominance and conquest and oppression. But the teachings of Jesus are radically different. Very rarely, when you hear these evangelicals talk about the Bible, do they lift up anything from Jesus. Very rarely. They'll pull something from the Old Testament, and it's not that we can't use that, but very rarely do they quote the teachings of Jesus, because the teachings of Jesus would undermine their leanings towards weaponizing the Bible and weaponizing scripture, right, to destroy who they don't like. First of all, the ego and the arrogance of many Christians actually think that God doesn't like the people you don't like. So you set God's agenda for who God likes. And we think somehow the people we don't like, we have divine sanction on that by God. That's not true.
Come on.
That's not true. So the inconsistency that exists with evangelicals saying, well, if you support Kamala Harris, you're supporting LGBTQ, you're supporting abortion. It is amazing how they use these politically charged issues to set themselves in a way that they say, if you support her for this, you're not really a Christian. Well, what about taking care of the vulnerable in our community? What about taking care of the poor? What about taking care of children? Because if you go through Jesus's teachings, whether you start with the Beatitudes in Matthew, from Matthew 5-7, or go to Matthew 25, where Jesus says, listen, who are the ones who go to heaven? Who are the ones who are the righteous? Those who feed the hungry, give water to the thirsty, clothe the naked, welcome the stranger, and visit those in prison. Isn't it interesting that many of these Christians who are now diametrically opposed to Kamala Harris and support Trump, who are diametrically opposed to migrants and people coming to this country, forget that part of Jesus, welcome the stranger. Welcome the stranger. And Jesus' teachings on that date back to the Old Testament, where the people were supposed to take care of the aliens in their midst. So this kind of situational ethics of some right-wing evangelicals, this kind of situational picking and choosing of scripture to make sense and justify their mean-spiritedness and their hate has been going on for a long time. We just get duped into it, and we fall into these political footballs they use, and they use dog whistles to activate us. And all of a sudden we start saying, or if I support Kamala Harris, then I support LGBTQ, or I support abortion. Let me tell you something. I am anti-abortion, but I am pro-choice. So that's conflicting. No, it's not. I personally don't believe in abortion. At the same time, I also don't believe we have a right to tell a woman this is what you ought to do. Now, here's the mind-blowing thing, Joe and Fatim. Here's the crazy thing for me. The deep thing about this, if you think about it, is you have people on the right who say we should be able to tell women what to do with their bodies, right? That's what they believe, legally. Some of these people, the same people who resisted and resented when the President Biden was trying to mandate vaccinations. So hold on, wait a minute. Your argument for not wanting to be vaccinated was the government don't have a right to tell me what to do with my body. But you now believe somehow the same people, you have a right to tell women what to do. It is an ethical and more inconsistency. And this is what you see happening with right wing. So when someone says, as I saw, well, I don't know if you're a pastor, how you can't support Kamala Harris. But wait a minute. In this country, there is no religious test to hold the office of president. So when we make decisions about who we support, who I support as president, it's not about whether or not someone is a believer or not, because we've seen a whole lot of presidents lie about their belief. We heard Trump talking about 2 Corinthians. He don't know more about the Bible than he do about any other book that he might have had on his shelf. But the issue is, what candidate is in alignment with your faith? I can't reduce my faith to a position on abortion and LGBTQ only. I am shaped by the teachings of Jesus, which are undergirded and steeped in love. You can't, in Jesus' name, decide I want to destroy another human being because of their decisions. That's not the way of Jesus. Jesus said this: the world will know that we are disciples, not by the politics we hold, not by who we vote for. The world will know we are disciples by the love we show for one another, period. I'm a pause.
There you go.
One more thing. I'm sorry. One more thing. I'm just very quickly, when you talk about the church, here's what happens in our culture. I know countless pastors who are doing the work. getting people out to vote, churches registering people to vote, making sure people try to get to these polls, educating and empowering voters. But what happens is that's not, since you can't sensationalize love, but you can sensationalize people who spew hate. This is why you would think when it comes to Christianity in this country, the only people who speak for Christians are right-wing evangelicals, because the media covers that. Why? Because it's sensationalism. It's spewing hateful rhetoric. It adds to ratings. People watch that insanity. But who's going to check on us when every day we feeding kids breakfast before they go to school? Ain't nobody going to make a hype out of that. Who's checking a church like ours who provides free mental health care in the community? Ain't nobody up in arms about that. So it's not, but if I had sat in that pulpit one day and I said all white people going to hell, it goes viral. And it's all over the world, because that reinforces something that is underlying many people in this country, which is our intoxication with hate and mean-spiritedness.
Well said, Pastor Mike. And they say, I know what you bring to the table. That's why, I nod my head. I know what this brother brings to the table. And let me just put my disclaimer out here. Pastor Mike, you knew know Reverend Johnny Ray Youngblood.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
He cursed in the pulpit time to time.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So if you hear me curse up here, brother, because I let some loose, brother, I just let you know. Pastor Mike can't see the other side of fatigue there. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
so
listen, let me say this to you. We all have multiple sides.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
So you go ahead and be you, brother.
I'm gonna be me. But let me just say this, and this is what I'm saying, and this is the reason why I wanted this brother on, because I talk a lot about Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And a lot of people talk about Martin Luther King, they talk about religion, but they don't walk in that light. You understand? And like I said, to learn and know Dr. King, listen to his speeches or read his books. Don't read books about him. Read, even though there's a couple of good books about him, read his books. He wrote about 7 books out there. You need to read his books. And I'm not going to do it today. I'll give you a list of his books. The reason why I don't want those comments going up there, because they're not going to create the narrative of this show today. Because we'll answer their questions. But the bottom line is, when you're talking the truth, they get up in arms. It's just like, in the movie The Exorcist, when you threw that holy water on that devil, that's the reaction that you get. That's why I'm not hitting no bells. I'm not blowing no horns this morning, because I've been saying this. I might not be a pastor, but I've been telling you guys this for the longest. Talking about Jesus, what you follow, and talking about the Council of Nicaea. I've been telling you about these things for the longest, but now we bring on a pastor. But I want to turn our focus. It's easy to talk politics. This hotbed is a very important thing. But one of the things that I want to talk about, and we'll talk about everything, but in the short period of time that we have you, Pastor Mike, I want to really talk about the role of the Black church. And we talked about, does the Black church have the same type of respect and reverence in the Black community that it once had? My opinion, it doesn't. Doesn't mean that the Black church is not relevant. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, if you go back to, let's just go back to the Civil Rights era. I won't go back to Jim Crow. We'll just go back to the Civil Rights era. The Civil Rights era, you got so many different organizations, including the Black church, where the common denominator was what? Fighting against racism, systemic racism, and fighting for our liberation. And the common denominator is that you can go state to state, and a lot of the Black churches out there was really working cohesively. They didn't have to say working together, but we were working for the people out there because we knew what we were going through. A lot of things have changed. Even though things have gotten better for some, overall for us as a people, we still face those challenges that we faced back then. We might not be in the physical bondage, the physical chains, but we still go through mental challenge of slavery or that systemic racism out there.
Yeah.
A lot of things that you just said, just to get this, set this up properly, Pastor Mike, to set this up is that for some of the things that you just said, this knowledge is coming to people. We have chance to book. We have more research that we can do that comes easier at our hands now. and our minds start to open up, and we realize that a lot of things that were fed to us was not quite the truth.
Yeah.
Then we have saw how some of the young folks, because I've seen this before. I mean, we kind of passed that stage now, but in the early stages of hip hop, I remember where some young teenagers or young folks would bring hip hop to the church and say, could we do hip hop in the church? And like they would be turned back. Remember when Kirk Franklin came out with God's Property? Some pastors, black pastors frowned on that. That's not gospel, this, that, and the other. So I want to talk about the institution of the black church. Where is it at from your perspective? You're out there, you're black, you're a pastor. I see the good work, the great work that you do. And I say that there's pastors in the black church that is doing the work. But do you have the same type of I don't want to use the word importance, but do you have the same type of influence that you once had? And if you don't, why is that? And is it a way of getting it back?
So let me say that what the challenge is. When you talk about the church's role in the civil rights era, a few things. I never want to romanticize the role of the church, because it was not a great percent of the churches that were committed to the civil rights movement. People don't realize that. When you look at Eyes on the Prize, that historic series, and others, it's the same pastors they keep talking to, the same churches that were involved. So remember, the largest black denomination of black church people was the National Baptist Convention at that time. National Baptist Convention did not support Martin Luther King. In fact, there was a split in the convention, and they formed a new convention, the Progressive National Baptist Convention, with people like, Jennifer Jones Austin's father, Dr. Jones, and others, because of the reluctance of the convention to support the civil rights movement. So that's the first thing. We romanticize the role of the black church during the civil rights movement, but there was a lot of fear in place. Now, historically, the black church emerges in rebellion against racism. You go as far back as Richard Allen and AME Church founding. I mean, the black church rising out from in the midst of slavery, the black church as a response to racism, Jim Crow, segregation. That's the roots of the history of the black church emerging. So let me skip forward for a second. This is a big question you asked. What I will tell you right now is, in part, the reason why the black church is not as relevant is not just because of the black church itself. Culturally, it's a different day. I'm gonna give you an example. During the civil rights movement, and I think all of us are here over 50, right? So we know we grew up in a time when I could tell you everything, and you could tell Fatima and Brother Joe everything on a Wednesday night that came on TV. We knew what the schedule was. We knew when the news came on. We knew when the game shows came on. We knew when the Cosby Show came on. We knew all those things. We had a TV guide that we sometimes would memorize because we wanted to see our favorite shows, right? All that was at play. Okay, and in that role, the church, in a very limited parochial world, the church becomes an institution in our community that historically it always has been at the center of our community, historically, culturally, socially, creatively, artistically. Everything ran the church. Right? You had meetings in the church. I'm amazed now the kind of conspiracy theories against Masonry, because a lot of Masonic meetings were held in black churches. Black schools were founded in black churches. You can go on and on. We did plays and productions in churches because it was the only space we owned. It's the only access point. It was the one free space we had. So in that context, the role of the church was an integral part of the community because it was one of the free spaces we had. We're in a moment now, at this time, we're in a particular moment where, as technology has increased, right, the expansion, we now live in a global economy, a global culture. In an instant, I can find out what's going on in Japan. In an instant, I can find out what's going on the continent. It wasn't so 50 years ago. So there weren't as many distractions, right? Church was a part of the cultural fabric of community. You know that on Sunday, your grandma, your mom made you go to church or the mosque, whatever it was. It was a part of the cultural fabric. There weren't many cultural distractions. Now, the decrease of church, because not just the black church as a whole, memberships are decreasing. Under 50% of Americans may claim to any religious institution. We have 40% now and declining because of Gen Z and millennials. So it's because there's so many other things that can vie for people's attention other than just showing up in church on Sunday morning. Couple that with a lot of the public scandals that we never got back in the days because we didn't have social media. We didn't have all these different ways of knowing what's going on around the world. So you get a decrease in church attendance as a whole. You get an increase in social mechanisms of distraction that we are tuned to. You get an expansion of cultural opportunities, right? We no longer have to operate in certain spaces and places. All of a sudden, you get the decreased importance of the church. Now, the other piece of this, I'm saying a lot, but the other piece of this is when you get a decrease in many of our historic churches, and let's be honest, you made a good point, Fatin, about Kirk Franklin. Many of our historic churches have been resistant to creating spaces for young people, right? Part of the growth of our church is because the largest demographic in our church is between 22 and 42, right? So young people are in this church. But many churches don't create spaces for young people, right? Because they think somehow they holding up the bloodstained banner. Holding up the bloodstained banner means holding on to traditions that may be antiquated and practices that may be archaic, and we don't want to revisit and think about it, right? And we think somehow by creating a space for young people and to come to church, we're somehow letting God. No, we are being relevant. Here's what I mean. When's the last time, Joe, you went to the dentist?
A few weeks ago.
Okay, good. So check this out. If you went to the dentist's office and when you went into the doctor and sat in the chair, and it was a male or female?
It was male.
And this brother who's going to do work, if he came in there with a bottle of whiskey and some pliers, you would say, wait a minute, brother, what you about to do?
What are you doing?
Yeah, you come in there with whiskey and pliers. Wait a minute, this is not the 18th century, right? So you better get here some Novocaine, something, right? Well, it's the same thing. We're in the 21st century, and many of our churches are practicing, and the institutions are shaped for a time that is past. We're not being relevant. We're not being relevant. We're not intentionally being relevant. How do you become intentionally relevant in community? By treating the needs of the community as holy. We have churches that have ministries and all kind of programs, but we don't have the ministries and programs consistently based on the needs of the community, right? Because if the needs of the community shape what you do as a church, you'll never be irrelevant in that community. And that means that in conversation with the community, you're building relationships with the community. God is going to be God, and we're going to honor that. But you become relevant by building relationship and understanding the needs that exist in the community to expand the work we do to reach more people. King said that for some people, what was Gandhi actually? He said, for some people, food is God. That if you go to a hungry person to feed them, you can't pull out scriptures in the Bible, tear them out and feed somebody. And you're not going to get to somebody's spiritual needs if their physical needs are not met. So you show them God's love. You don't scare them into God's arms, which we do all the time. You show them God's love. And we think somehow by leading with love is taboo. By leading with love is problematic. And that's part of the challenge. So you get the decrease in the role of the church as a whole because of the expansion of cultural opportunities. We live in a global economy. And as you pointed out, Fatin, we have access to information. A preacher can't just sit in the pulpit and tell me something. I can now verify it. I can check it to see if it's true instantly. And there was a time that wasn't the case. And that's why clergy held such a particular role. But then we got to tell the real truth. In most of our Black churches that are freestanding, autonomous, there's no requirement for education. I want you to get this. There's no requirement for education. Okay? So that I could be a pastor right now of a Baptist church. Joe could come to me and say, Pastor, I feel called. I like Joe. I say, you know what, Joe, we're going to license you in 3 months. I license Joe to preach. And then after that, Joe says, hey, there's this church that's looking for a pastor down the street. You think I could do it? I say, yeah, Joe, go ahead. But in order for Joe to pass, he got to be ordained. I'll ordain Joe. So within a year, I can license Joe, ordain Joe, and Joe could go pastor the church. And it's in a year's time. And there'd be no requirement for him to be theologically trained in any way, shape, or form. There's no other institution that is like that. You're not going to tell somebody, I got a call to be a dentist. I got a call to be a lawyer. I got a call to be a OBGYN. You have to be trained. Now, I'm not saying training makes all the difference and that training is all there is because the spirit is real. But we got a lot of uneducated people in the pulpit who are spewing rhetoric that has been handed down, not studied for themselves, repeating and rehearsing doctrine that has not been examined and made relevant to people today. This is what's happening. And so it's a
dollar for a dollar.
Yeah, I mean, and then don't even add on to that. what prosperity gospel has done to the credibility of many of our churches. If you throw that in there, which really sprung up heavy. I mean, this is going back as far as Reverend Ike, Daddy Grace, Father Divine. But in the 90s, under Bill Clinton, this whole notion that America was the prosperous generation under Clinton, and the prosperity gospel jumped up heavy again in our communities. And people started seeing people get on the screen and say, the Lord told me to tell you to give me money so I can get this jet, so I don't have to avoid crowds. The Lord told me to tell you that I need to live in a 36,000 square foot mansion with 18 bedrooms. That's what the Lord told me to tell you. Prosperity gospel telling people that a sign of God's favor is material prosperity.
Come on.
And financial prosperity is actually contrary to the teachings of Jesus. That is a capitalistic understanding that infuses itself into the church. And it's not that we don't need money to live, that we don't need money to, but fixation on excess, materialism, and defining our self-worth by the goods that we have. Now, that's not just being a Christian. In this culture right now, that's being a good American. To be patriotic is to be a consumer. To be patriotic is to be fixated on materialism. And that's part of the issue that exists. Somebody told me when I said this one time, Pastor, you can't legislate my purchasing choices. I said, you're absolutely right. I don't want to. But I want to let you know why you're making that choice. I want you to understand how the market is shaping your decisions, how the market is manufacturing need. So all of a sudden they tell you to be valuable, you need to have this particular pants, these particular shoes, this particular shirt, drive this particular car, right? And then you say, I'm making free choices. No, you're not. Marketing and capitalism go hand in hand. They create a need, and then you fall victim for it. And so we got people, poor people, who will go into further debt to give the appearance of wealth, right? To give the appearance that what? They actually are participating in the American dream. The American dream has become reduced now to materialism, not freedom, not justice, not opportunity, right? And this is happening all the time. I mean, brother, listen, I'm passionate about this stuff.
Yeah, I know you are. That's why I wanted you on. And I just want to really say, get Joe back in, but one of the things, and when I brought this up about the Black church, that's why I wanted, because we can talk all day about, Joe, I don't like, let's get us all up here, brother. The politics, it's easy to talk the politics. I want to talk about, I don't want to talk about the flesh. I want to talk about our soul. I want to talk about our mind. I want to, because if we're not about saving ourselves, you mentioned, and I don't like to have this conversation when we talk about the young people without young people here, but since you're a pastor and you mentioned the ages, what are some of the things that the young people are saying that are part of your church that attracts them to your church, but also say that their brothers and sisters that are not attracted to church, what are they saying that some of the issues that they feel that the elders, the adults are not listening to? Because you said a lot. If people need to rewatch this show, because if you look at the stigmatism in our community, especially with us older folks, Dr. King said this, that some older folks are so set in their ways, you gotta let them grow old and die, because you're not gonna never change them. They feel their way is right because because my big mama did it, and Nana did it, and granddaddy did it. And I keep saying here, because they did it, I mean, we can learn from the positive things. Dr. King talked about the thesis and antithesis. He talked about this. But what are some of the things and the issues that young folks have with the church today, and the message for them in a sense of their message being heard? What are you hearing from your young folks?
Well, it's funny, Fatin, you lifted up my book, because that book is part of that book is to speak to what I've learned on some of the issues. You know what young people want? They want authenticity. They want people to be real. The church doesn't do a good job of being transparent. We wear these facades. We hold these images, but we don't actually engage people in a way that says it's okay to be transparent. It's okay to be vulnerable. Young people don't want anything more than what we want. They want to feel whole. They want to feel part of a community. They want to feel loved. They want to feel heard. They want to feel accepted. They don't want somebody. Listen, when our church started growing years ago, people started calling us the hip hop church. Why? Because it was young people. We weren't in there playing on hip hop. Now, I love hip hop, but I love gospel too. But what they were saying is that they had an issue with the church that young people were going to, because young people felt welcome. We don't sit down and turn our nose at people. Young people want to feel like they walk into church and they don't have church clothes and nobody gonna look at them, judge them, and tell them to get out. Like
Thank
all
you.
these are things that they want. And again, feeling that they're part of community, feeling like they're part of community, feeling like they're heard, that their voice is actually valued and valuable, feeling like they belong, feeling like their voices matter, being in spaces that affirm them, love them, hold them accountable. See, our young people don't mind being held accountable, when on the flip side, they're also loved in the midst of being held accountable. We stopped doing that, right? So we get churches who think, well, to get young people, you got to be gimmicky. So we're gonna play hip hop, and we're gonna have this person preaching to rap songs. Like, you ain't got to do that. Why? Because whether you are 12 or 72, here's what I've discovered in my preaching. Whether you're 12 or 72, we bleed, we cry, we laugh, we hurt, we mourn, we grieve. When you speak to those existential realities that draw people, the existential realities of life that we all find in common. Like Joe, you said, it's funny you said that statement, because I preach a sermon titled that, Life Be Lifing. Because sometimes we think that life, certain things happen, are punishment, or certain things that come our way, God is upset. It's called life. Life is filled with inconsistencies. Life is filled with challenges. Life is filled with viciousness at times and beauty, but it is life. And I've had people say, Pastor, why is God doing? No, it's life. The atheist experienced this. The believer experienced this.
Come on.
Here's what Jesus said. It rains on the just and the unjust. It both. So that your righteousness is not some protective force field from life.
Come on.
Somehow, because you're righteous, you think you don't go through the challenge of life. We start making people believe that being righteous made you a Superman or Superwoman. No, being righteous means you have an anchor that keeps you grounded in the midst of life's challenges and inconsistency, that you have a belief in God that helps shape your focus when the challenges you face will want to take your focus. That's what it means. It doesn't mean somehow I believe in God, therefore I won't go through any trouble. And if I go through trouble, then God is mad or the devil's busy. No, not at all. And the church kind of helps shape that narrative, right? By this kind of emotional manipulation in spiritual guises to try to control people. I'm not afraid to say that's what happened, because that's what many churches have been doing over the years. But I'm not invested in that. Young people want to feel like they actually matter. But what we do is we often judge young people, right? Young people today, Fatim, a 12-year-old today goes through much more than what we did at 12.
Amen.
At 12, I didn't have 24/7 access to people's lives. At 12, I didn't get bombarded with all sorts of images, whether it's pornographic or whatever, at 12 years old on a phone. At 12 years old, I wasn't watching videos that almost romanticize suicide. At 12 years old, I wasn't being tempted to do these suicide challenges that you see young people doing here in New York, surfing on subways. These are all things that they're exposed to. They're exposed to sex more. They're exposed to violence more. They're exposed to all these things that we weren't exposed to necessarily at 12. Now think about it. I grew up in a Black community that in the 70s and 80s that was hit with heroin in the 70s, crack in the 80s, all of that, right? But you literally, Fatim, would have to go to certain places to see it. All I got to do now is pull it up on this phone and see every negative thing that can undermine who I am as a human being. I can pull up on the phone. Exactly. That's what they're dealing with. A young person, listen, when we got, and this is not judging them, when we were 12 and you had a bully and you went home, my grandfather told me, you go fight. And if they bigger than you, go grab something to hit them with it. And he said, if there's more than one, he said, don't feel ashamed to run, because nobody can fight three people. That's what he told me, right? And you had to deal with it. You went to school, granddad said, fight the bully, you fought it. And what my grandfather said, look, you may not win every fight, but they're going to know you're not afraid to fight, right? Okay, watch this. In an environment where our human fragility is highlighted, now that same young person feels that an option instead of fighting, like the 10-year-old girl some years ago who went up on the top of the building in the projects because she was being bullied and jumped 16 floors. They're getting images that says, you know what, you don't have to stay. You don't have to deal with this in your life. They literally are seeing these things. We never saw that at 12 years old. We never encountered that, right? So what they face in this world now is radically different than what we face. And unless you listen to them, unless you hear them, you won't understand it. This age now with young people, Social deprivation. Why? Because they're on their phones all the time, or their tablets. They actually don't have human encounter. Sleep deprivation in the formative years, because they're busy on these phones and these tablets and not sleeping at night, right? Addiction, because many of them are addicted. And then the increase in anxiety and depression among young people. The highest rate is the demographic that has the highest rate of suicide right now, Black boys between 5 and 13. That's the highest rate of suicide. That was unthinkable when we were 5 and 13 years old, right?
Come on.
And what do we do as a church? We sit around, we don't even address those issues. We still talking about, and it's not negative. I'm not judging the church. We'll say, oh no, but believe in Jesus, you're gonna go to heaven. You won't go to heaven. And we're not speaking to the issues that are shaping these young people. We don't talk about depression. We don't talk about suicide. We still got churches saying there's no such thing as mental health problem. That's a demon. We need to pray it out. That's what we're not doing.
There you go. Blame it on the devil again. Blame it on the damn
Instead
devil.
of saying that there's a mental issue, we don't address that.
Nope.
There are churches to this day who believe that mental illness is a demon, and they won't talk about it. That is what we deal with. It is a big crisis in our community, and the church seems as though in many churches that they're not directly addressing the needs of our young people or the crises that they face. If we don't do that, we're going to keep losing them.
Real quick, I just want to use an example here. Great job, great answer to my question. But I want to show something. I'm being a little funny here.
That's
As Pastor Mike was speaking, you saw Joe like he's in church, right? Like he's in church, And what I see at times is the problem is a lot of times folks go to church, they hear the message, but don't receive the message. And then they don't walk that walk. And that is another disconnection out there. They can go and hear, because one thing about our folks, and I'll say it, we love a good sermon. We love a charismatic leader. But the bottom line is when you come home, are you nourishing your spirit and your mind and your soul to become that mess or be that vessel of that message, to become that better person to reach other people? And at times, Pastor Mike, some are doing it, but a lot are not doing it.
Yeah.
And that's why I said sometimes we get up and we want to hear that, like Joe was the clapping and this, that, and other, because I come out of the Black church. I understand that. But then when we come out, I come back home and they take off their church clothes and I see them going back to them heathen ways. And that's one thing that I criticize us at times, because we love a good game, but we don't know how to apply it and make our lives better and make other people's lives better.
So let me say this before Pastor Mike speaks. First of all, Brother Fatim, let me give once again what I call the geographical divide that we don't address a great deal.
Mm-hmm.
You and Pastor Mike are New Yorkers.
Yeah.
I am a Southerner from living in Louisiana that's from Tennessee. See, sometimes we got to put everything in perspective, because then people feel like they're getting slighted, because once again, life in New York is not the same life like it's been for me in the South. And I'm 57 years old.
Yeah.
Hold on. So let's address this properly, where folks will get the full feeling, because everybody watching this podcast ain't from the tri-state area. So here's what I want to make clear. And I'm with both of you brothers. Pastor Mike, you've been saying a great word, because what a lot of folks don't understand is the scriptures say, be it good or be it bad, it works together for them who love the Lord. So guess in that scripture itself, it said there's going to be some bad times. Absolutely. Be it good or be it bad. Who do you believe in when the rough time comes? You keep your belief. You don't say the devil did it. Don't give him that credit. Say, guess what? I thank you, Lord, for the bad time, because you're teaching me something. Watch this. Also, in the scripture, which many evangelicals, especially Southern evangelicals, don't want to adhere to, like you said, they always want to talk about weaponizing the scriptures to say, I'm right, you wrong. This is why you should be with me and hate them. That's never the teachings of Jesus. Jesus said, what you do to the least of them, you do unto me. So that's where I love what Pastor Mike is saying, because to me right now, Pastor Mike, I would love to have you come down south and begin to educate let me educate you. That many of you have been indoctrinated with the completely wrong teachings and the weaponization of this thing called Christianity that has turned Black folks against Black folks. That's why Brother Malcolm said, who taught you to hate you?
That's right.
Now,
Well,
I
let
now
me say
can see. Go
this.
ahead.
Let me try to get my Southern card back, right? So
Yeah, because
to
we
let you
got
know,
that. We do have that
yeah.
too. We
So
have
no,
that.
but I get what Joe is saying. So I was
Yeah.
educated in South. I was educated at Morehouse College, then went to Duke University, and then pastored in North Carolina for 8 years, right? So what I think Joe is alluding to is there's a difference in how Southern culture appropriates church and a lot of Northern
Correct.
Come on.
That's
Come
correct.
right?
on.
That's
Come on.
correct.
When I came to pastor in New York, I found myself really trying to convince people that church should be a part of your everyday life. Whereas in the South, church is so woven into the cultural fabric of it, right? That it was just a thing to do. For example, and I'll just teach on this is a financial thing, but it's not about money. Down south, when I was pastoring out south, I didn't have to talk a lot about how to financially support the church because people knew when you part of this church, this is what you do. You tithe. Up north, I had to do that. Why? In part because places like Harlem is a village of distraction, man. I mean, the funny thing, Fatin, is the amazing thing is how FCBC has grown in a space and place where it hadn't seen church growth like that in a long, long time. So those things are all real. But what you're alluding to, Fatin, and I also agree with, is that, well, here's what happens in churches traditionally. We get up there and raise this high standard, a high standard we place before people, and we do not uphold ourselves, right? Here's the problem. So we say all these things, you got to do this, you got to do this, and then the very things we speak against in the pulpit, we find ourselves engaging. How about this? How about just being honest? How about just being real, right? But too many of us fall into these facades of Christian, these images of Christian, rather than being vulnerable, transparent about their own. Listen. I remember when I first came, I had no shame. When I first came to First Corinthians, this is 20 years ago. And I said, listen, I'm going to just tell you, my first Bible study, I said, let me tell you something. If someone says to y'all, we saw your pastor and his wife down at the lounge and they would listen to music and had a drink, I said, that's us. I said, if you want, I said everything. You know why? Because I said, I'm not going to set up some environment where you now lift me up on some pedestal that is steeped in the lack of authenticity and not be right. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be who I am in this pulpit is who I'm going to be outside of it. And I'm going to let that be seen. That's what I think is one of the biggest draws. Many people don't feel like when they come into FCBC, they're coming into this performative faith. They're coming into an authentically lived faith where we're not trying to chastise and castigate people for living in a way they're trying to wrestle through and struggle through. You can't listen. You can't talk to someone. I have in my family alcoholics. You can't talk to an alcoholic and lift up this idea for them. You know, brother, if you get saved and you stop drinking, God will do all blah, blah. No, you have to understand the nature of their sickness, understand the nature of the disease, and speak to the issue. Because fundamentally, no one who becomes an alcoholic because they like to taste the alcohol.
That's
Most
right.
people who become an alcoholic are numbing some pain, are numbing some deep wound. Instead of criticizing them for drinking, let's get to the heart of the problem. Let's talk about the internal struggle. Let's talk about the internal wrestling with trauma and all these things, right? If we do that, Fatin, you find more people then drawn to the church and engaging it because they don't feel that they walk into church and being looked upon funny. I've had people walk in FCBC, and this is I promise you, this happened. I never get this particular Sunday. A brother came in and he came to he was in the back of the church. When I opened up the front for prayer, this brother came down bawling. He went in his pipe, had his coat, it's wintertime, and in it, he pulled out syringes, bro, and crack vials and put them there. Because the whole sermon I preached about dealing with your pain doesn't have to consume you. Your pain doesn't have to hold you captive. This brother came crying. I watched this brother hand these things over to me in front of the entire congregation. And then we started working with this brother. We didn't now all of a sudden say, hey, brother, you need to now start reading scripture. No, we started loving on this man and showing him there's an alternative. We helped him get into a program. And now this brother is he is a faithful servant in the church, faithful worker in the church. But it was because he came to a place where he didn't feel judged. He felt welcome with his struggle, his pain, his issue, and we addressed that. That's what people are lacking. I don't want to have people just preach about, well, here's the doctrine. Let me preach you this so that you don't go to hell. No, let me talk about your pain. Let me talk about your crisis. Let me talk about your suicidal ideations. Let me talk about those wrestlings with anxiety. That is dealing with what is at the heart of people. You can't love people and ignore their pain. You can't love people and ignore their trauma. And unfortunately for team, we do that a lot. We ignore trauma,
Definitely.
and we are filled with pretentiousness.
Exactly,
Amen.
exactly.
That's
Go
real
ahead,
talk.
Joe. I'm
Yeah,
gonna let you
that's real talk.
ask another question because we're gonna have to wrap up with Pastor
Yeah,
Michael.
I'm gonna jump off in a few too.
Yeah, no, exactly. I held you past your time. So go ahead,
Yeah,
Joe.
yeah.
You got a quick question for Pastor Mike before we wrap up with my brother?
Pastor Mike, I just thank you for taking this time out. Really, I don't have a question. I have a statement, man. I appreciate that you came and spoke truth. Spoke truth from a manner that people need to hear. Because so many times, as you say, we set a standard as men of God that we don't even keep. Like a young person said, you got the mitigated gall and audacity to talk about these people who love who are gay and lesbian and trans, but at the same time the pastor's sleeping. You ain't addressing that the pastor's sleeping with everybody in the church. She said,
including men.
Right. She said, what hypocrisy. She said, but you're the first one to talk about it. She said, just because we didn't see it, we don't know it, doesn't mean it's not happening. She said, the same person who's trying to throw scripture at me and beat me down with the Bible, cheating on his wife. She said, how I know? Because my girlfriend done told me, it's funny that he ain't telling y'all he's sleeping with me. So that's the point. We are all human and have fallen short of the grace of God. I love your realism. And that's what I feel like more pastors, more churches need to get back to, the realism. The realism as we're all struggling. We all sin and fall short of the glory. And guess what? We all need the higher power to lead us, guide us, and direct us daily. And my belief is my belief. I'm not trying to push my belief on you. My job is not. I'm going to say this. My job is not to bring you into my belief system. My job is to live a good life and be an example that when you see me, you may ask the question, what is he doing? And what must I do to be like him? Because it seems like life is good for him. Just be a living example. Now, I don't have to indoctrinate you. I don't have to convert you. I just have to live a good life. Because just like in one of the organizations I belong to, being an HBCU grad, people watch us and say, what I need to be, I like y'all guys. Because everybody ain't going to flow and go with what you're doing. And guess what? That's okay. I just want to see black and brown people win. And if they win and they're not winning in the lane I'm in, guess what? We all trying to get to the same destination. We just might be on different roads. Thank you, Pastor Mike.
Thank you for having me. I agree with you 100%, man. I mean, listen, I think at the end of the day, it is always going to be our honesty, our transparency, and our vulnerability that really draws people closer to God. Not setting up unrealistic expectations without addressing the issues that plague people. And I think that's for the work. I don't know what organization that is, by the way, Joe. You're part of HBC. I don't know if you're referring to fraternity or not. But I'm an HBCU grad and a proud member of a fraternity that has, done a lot in our community, Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. So I'm grateful because our organizations, our civic organizations, our fraternal organizations, they all had their biggest points of support in the Black church. We've gotten away from being a community. We're so busy pointing out who's wrong, who's going to hell, who's not right, who's not honoring true doctrine, that we forget that the majority of Jesus's teachings were about interpersonal relationships, how we treat one another. How we treat one another is a surefire measure. So anyway, thank y'all for having me, man.
Thank you, Pastor Mike.
Anytime you ask, bro, I'll pull it up. I'm available, man. So,
you do, brother. Thank you. Again, put this book up here. Again, you can go out there and get this book out here.
I need that book. Mike. I'm getting that book.
There you go. Let me just say, Pastor Mike, I don't know if you ever did a sermon on it, because I know if I start you, but I wonder if you ever did a sermon on the ego. I know that's a huge topic that we need to talk about.
Absolutely, man. Thank y'all for having me again, brother.
Take care, Pastor Mike, my man.
Pastor Mike. We appreciate you, brother.
All right.
Peace. All right.
It is 23 minutes past the hour. Listen, family, this is the type of conversation we get engaged in. Thank you, Brother Fatim, once again. Thank you, Pastor Mike, for coming on and enlightening us in the way that you did. I would infer that you click like and share this with a friend, tell a friend to tell a friend, come back and look at this. And maybe it can bring some things to you that will all of a sudden begin to make you think. As we once say all the time on this podcast, we're not here to tell you how to think, what to think. We're here to give you information where you can begin to research it yourself and begin to think. It is, I think,
let me just
5
say
days.
this. Yeah, let me
Yes,
just
sir. Go ahead. Go
hold
ahead.
on.
Go ahead. Go
Hell
ahead.
with that. Well, with that. But, well, you know, with 5 days, we gotta get better with us. You go off every day and you talk about this. And this is what I try to say. This is what, again, you know, why I get so passionate is that people don't go out there and converse with folks, read. You know, you hear my name, Fatin, Brother Fatin Muhammad, or whatever, you know, and, you know, you may think I roll this way. I work with so many different people, Christians, this one, that one, because it's about relationships. You understand? And I told you, Joe, the reason why I don't do it much is because I produce so many shows, host shows, do this, that I wanted to come back and lay back. But sometimes I have to shake the tree a little bit and bring on the folks that I'm around. And when I'm getting this type of knowledge here, and when I'm having conversation here with individuals, I know it's not my job to not, because like the pastor said, it's out of love. But you got to realize out of love becomes frustration too, because when you don't want to open your mind and when you don't want to have a healthy conversation, we can have a healthy conversation and we can have a healthy debate. But when we can't have a healthy debate, when you don't know, when you can't converse about the issue, and then you want to throw things out there, that's why I shake. That's why I get upset. That's why I do that, because I want to make an example of them. This is what you need to be doing. This is a pastor. He's a very humble brother, but he's opened up an institution. He has shook Harlem. His church is in Harlem. He shook some of the Harlem church institutions out there, because he has opened his door and opened the mind of those that come there, especially young folks. He's getting young folks to come into church. When I use that thing about Kirk Franklin, I'm serious. When I first met Kirk Franklin and we talked, he said, brother, you just don't know the daggers that some of the church members and church people throw at me for what I'm trying to do, and I'm trying to save souls. And one of the things that the church is not doing is don't know how to communicate with young folks. I keep saying that. A lot of us older folks talk at young folks, not with them. And if you talk at them, you turn them off. And I keep telling you that. And a lot of people just not equipped to talk or take the message to a lot of people. They just not. You think you can just preach and do a prayer and you reach people? No, it's more than that. It's your work. Like you said, your example. Your example. You don't have to be a Christian, Hebrew, Muslim. It's your example. And when it's your example, that's why I keep saying you can be an atheist and still be the example like a Christian can. You don't have to hold up a Bible to walk in a righteous way.
Very true.
And I keep telling, and that's why I go hard at some religious folks, because some of y'all are fanatical. So damn fanatical, you forget about feeding the hungry, doing this. Oh, I got to do this on this time, and I got to do this on that time, and I got to do this on this time. No, what are you doing if it's the time to help someone? We become so damn fanatical. And he just told you, the people that wrote the damn Bible wasn't even with Jesus.
So Brother Fatim, your passion is well needed right now.
And we I hate to do that, man, but I'm just telling you, wake the hell up. They need to wake up, man.
No, it's 28 minutes after, and we need to address a few things. First of all, the phone number scrolls at the bottom of the screen. We had Pastor Mike on here, a very powerful pastor, a very well-versed pastor, a very good conversationalist as a pastor. If you can, see, sometimes when you're outmatched. That's why you don't call in.
Whoa. Stop, Joe, not you. What the hell does Eddie mean by this bullcrap? He says when people come out of sin, they don't want to come to a church that looks like the club. What do you mean, bro? Brother, what do you mean? Because somebody don't have a suit and a tie on or a skirt on, and they come to the church to be saved. You just heard what Pastor Mike said. A person came in the church with vials and crack and put it up there and said, I need help. He need help. He felt that
So-
that was a safe place. Stop putting your own ideas on what. That's
Right.
what gets us. That's why you turn so many people off. That's why
Right.
I got another young pastor I could bring on here, Darius Hicks. I work with this brother. He said every one Sunday, and this was 20 years ago, my father, who's the head pastor, and now he's the head pastor, said that we have a dress down day because I don't want to alienate folks that don't have a suit or don't have dress shoes. If they come in there with a baseball shirt and a baseball hat and take their hat off and sit down in the church, then they brought themselves there for a message. Stop being sensationalization. Oh, hell with the word. You're sensationalized.
Sensationalized and sensationalism.
Because you know ain't no damn church looking at no damn club. You know better than that, man. That's what I'm saying. That's the bull crap. And I'm going to tell you. I'm telling you. Wait, let me just say this, Joe. I'm telling you. I'm going to stop addressing this crap soon. I'm just going to, I try to be fair.
Right.
But I'm going to start addressing the people that put things in the chat that make sense. I don't mind addressing, but I think for me, I give too much credit to you guys because y'all put bull crap in there. Then you call it and you change your tune and then, oh, you're right for things. Stop putting bull crap in the chat because I'm going to ignore it. After now, that's done. If you put bull crap out there, I'm ignoring it because you know no damn church is looking like a club.
Well, here's what I like to address. First of all, when we bring in a pastor, I wouldn't like nobody, Brother Eddie, I wouldn't let nobody call you a so-called whatever when I know these are who you are. I would completely say, no, that's not a so-called, that is a pastor. He may not be a pastor you agree with, may not be a pastor that you see eye to eye with, but the man is who he says he is. And see, I love what Pastor Mike said. Pastor Mike said, stop weaponizing the teachings of Jesus to prove your point right, and to say this is why we should be against this person or these people. Stop that, because that's not the way he rolled. So, and then you want to get in here and once again, at the end of the day, it's good to have a man who has a congregation, a very large congregation, and he is still telling you that, listen, these are from my perspectives, how I use the scripture to save souls, to heal my community, to help work with my community, to help my community make itself better. And listen, I don't care what your title is. I don't care if you got a church or not. If every day you wake up with trying to help your community be better, I applaud you. But don't weaponize this stuff and try to always say just because, listen, I'm never going to disrespect anybody. And that's why I put that up there, Eddie. That disrespect was not necessary. A so-called pastor. No, he's a pastor. He might not be a pastor you agree with, but that doesn't mean he's not a pastor.
He can walk in doors that Eddie could never walk in, bro. He can walk in doors that Eddie could never walk in, bro.
And that was very disrespectful. So maybe you need since you said there needs to be some repenting, since he needs to repent if he's voting for Kamala Harris, you need to repent for your saying that he's a so-called pastor, because you don't know the man. He may not be somebody you agree with. At the end of the day, you don't have to agree with me, but respect me. And that is what Jesus was. Jesus was a man of respect, So once again, here's what gets me. Any other time, some folks know, like for me, I might go and train all day long, but I know not to get in the ring with Tyson because I'm going to get knocked the F out. So, listen, we brought a great person on that had a great conversation. I really wish that Pastor Ellison or Pastor Lawrence Levi was able to come on. Pastor Ellison winded up because he's, of course, doing the business of the church, trying to get more community services, and he had to meet with some big people in Shreveport. Pastor Lawrence Levi's mother got rushed to the hospital. So I'm saddened that the two pastors I tried to get on could not come on. But we're going to bring them on. We're going to bring them on next week, and we're going to continue this conversation because you need to hear from different perspectives. But once again, it's not that these people or whatever you may or may not say. The phone lines are ringing. Let me see. Can I bring somebody in? Let me see. Can I get somebody in? Hold on. Caller, I hope you can hear us. Welcome to hashtag Truth Be Told. Do you have a question or a comment? Caller, are you there? Wait a minute. Let me see. Can I fix the phone lines? Wait. Let me see. Can I get you on, caller? Caller, are you there? Let's go this way. Caller, can you hear me?
Yes, it's still. Hold on 1 second. This thing must be on. Turn it off. All right, can you hear me? Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, and you probably only can hear me. I don't have you running through my board, but good morning, Jules. Go ahead with your question or comment.
Yes, a quick comment. All that stuff that that person be talking about, and I remember coming from Brooklyn, or being born in Brooklyn. We have brother Mike Tyson, and he made it clear. He said everybody got something to say until they get punched in their face. Then they don't talk that much no more. So, just ask Brother Fatim. Am I kidding? Hello?
Yeah, Brother Fatim, he can hear you. He can hear you.
Good. Yeah, that's what they said growing up. Yada, 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 yada. And everybody know that's bullshit till it's yours. So he tell you, oh, this and that. There's a big old history of all the abuses and the atrocities that our kind have suffered. And here it is, we have an opportunity to make a difference, amen. That's all I want to call and say. Have a blessed day. Enjoy your vacation. I'll be waiting for you to get back.
All right. And we tell y'all all I know, Sister Jewel. I always thank you, Sister Jewel, for calling. I'm gonna try to reboot my phone lines.
Let me just say this, Joe. Let me just say this. Yeah, let me just say this. I'm one thing. I'm not doing a religious show. I don't have a problem talking about religion at times. I'm not doing a religious show every week. I'm just not. I'm here to do and bring things. I'll bring perspective. I'll bring other people on that is not religious. That you got to hear from people. Our job is to provide a platform, a safe space for people to come on, to have a conversation. I want to talk with more young people. I don't have a problem. See, that's my thing. I'll reach out to the young folks. We'll bring young folks on here.
Let's do it.
Talk, because that's what I said to Pastor. I really hate to have that conversation, but since he is a pastor, what are some of the things that the young people are doing? And I just think that a lot of things that the pastor said, Joe, honestly went over people's head. And I'm going to tell you why it went over some people's head, not everybody in the chat, because they don't even understand some of the things he was saying. They're just not relevant. They just don't know the message. They don't even know Dr. King. They just know Dr. King from I Have a Dream speech. They don't know Dr. King with the Vietnam War, what he said about the Vietnam War, and the I Have a Dream speech, which a lot of folks just think that he said that in the March on Washington on August 28th, 1963. He used that speech before then. And it's not just about holding the hands of black and white and my kids, this, that, and other. He talked about a check that bounced, that was given by the United States government that bounced. Y'all don't even know Dr. King. Y'all quote this. You don't even really understand the principles of the Bible, because if you did, your approach would be different. That don't mean you would disagree with things that we say, but your approach would be different. And see, that's what I'm trying to say. You I hate to say it, Joe, but a lot of people say they God, but they dress up as God or Jesus, and they're nothing but the devil. And that's the bottom line. So
that's true.
That's it. So I don't want to keep. I think the pastor spoke for himself, and anybody wants to replay it, just replay it for itself. Replay it for self. Like Eddie said, I don't want to walk through those doors. Nobody give a damn if you're gonna walk through those doors. But your word, like I said, when you call in, you make better sense because you explain and we have dialogue, we have back and forth. But when y'all put this stuff in the chat, it just hypes up. It just hypes up more, and we don't get anywhere, and that's the problem. And I gotta stop that, because the pastor said what needed to be said. I don't need to replay and reiterate what the pastor said. That's why we brought him on. I thought the other pastors, unfortunately, they wasn't able to come on because I wanted to see him with other pastors. Because I'll be honest with you, he shuts down. I didn't bring him on to shut down pastors because I don't know what your pastors are going to say. But I'm just telling you,
they were mostly. I believe they were in the same vein that he was in.
that's
See,
that's great.
People need to understand that the church has its place, Brother Fatim, in my opinion. And what folks need to understand is just because a person doesn't see it the way you see it doesn't mean that they're wrong. It just means they're doing it differently. And it might be wrong to you, but here's what really bothered me about everything. And I'm just going to say it. You can go back and review this how you want to. It's 20 minutes to the top of the hour. If you had a problem with what the man was saying, then call in and talk to the man. I was waiting for one of these big wolves that always wolf very hard in the chat. The phone number has never changed. Why didn't you call in and say, Pastor, I'd like to challenge you on a few things? Call in and say, but that's right, because you know
our phone lines wasn't working, so we wouldn't want to get embarrassed like that. But
I would have got the lines working like I got it working now. That ain't a problem. Just because they go down, don't
I'm
mean
just
I can't
rubbing you back. Keep going.
But no, I'm just laughingly. The thing that's funny to me is it's so easy for you to call in and engage in conversation. Not only that, we put the link out there. Not only could you call in, it's not, see, if you're so smart, learn how to work your smartphone and learn how to come in on video. You could have came in on video and talked to that man directly, but you didn't. Here's why. Because you knew he would have made you look like a bumbling, babbling fool. He would have made you look like a child with a pacifier in their mouth going goo goo gaga, because he was well versed, very knowledgeable, and had answers to get you in a place where you would have been like, you know what, I look like a dummy right now, because that's probably who you would be if you challenged him from that point of trying to put something out there that, as he says, weaponization of the gospel, to say that this is why we don't like these people, this is why we vote for this person, this is why this person shouldn't be this. And that's not how Jesus rolled. Period.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm glad he came on. I caught him yesterday, and we spoke this morning.
Thank you, Brother Fatim. And I apologize that my two pastors couldn't make it. I thoroughly, because I also wanted this to be a robust conversation, but eventually, it just didn't work out that way. And
I got some people coming down the pipeline. I got some people down the pipeline, and there was a brother that I met through Sister Jax that me and her, we haven't spoke about, but I would love for this brother to come on too. I got brothers that's in the Nation of Islam that I haven't even spoken with, but a lot of people see Brother Rizza out there on social media, and Brother Nuri Muhammad and stuff like that. I got Brother Minister Arthur Muhammad of Mosque Number 7, the famous Mosque Number 7 out of Harlem. You know, even though he's a teacher in school during the week, I can get brother to come on here and also converse. And could I've gotten Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan? Of course. But, with he getting older and things like that, but I can bring out the brother of Mas Mariam in Chicago. I have a relationship with him, get them on. So it's not about indoctrinating. It's just about having a conversation and trying to become better, and shows you that you don't have to walk a specific way of life to get the same type of message, even those that don't talk about God. You heard me. I could have did this with Brother Barron. I could have did this with Brother Mark Claxton. But we did it yesterday with Angelo Ellaby. They all knew Mtume.
Come on now.
All knew Mtume. And they all lift him up in high regard. And this brother said he was an atheist. I brought it up yesterday. But how was it? See, that's what I'm trying to say. A lot of y'all, again, your way of life is your way of life. I just don't like people pushing your way of life on other people. That's how you roll. That's fine. And I respect that. But it don't need to be in every damn conversation. It just doesn't. Just like if a person is gay, the person is gay. Fine, you gay. You're not talking about gayness all the time. You're talking about the conversation out there, and what you do in your bedroom is your bedroom. So if you're religious and you move in that way, that's fine. But I don't need to share it every 5 minutes in the conversation.
Brother Fatim, and I want to once again, for elder, brother, Angelo Ellisby, who is a LGBTQA plus, a member of that community. That brother yesterday gave supreme knowledge. And his lifestyle had nothing to do with his love for the Lord.
And he didn't preach it neither. And he didn't preach his lifestyle.
Right. And him yesterday giving us all jewels to make our life and our community better. And just because he belongs to a community that I may not identify with or agree with does not mean that I don't hold that elder in high esteem, and I respect that man as if it was my father speaking, because that brother was on point yesterday. And guess what? He has to live the life that he chooses to live, because he's the only one that can answer for his life, not me. And I would sit at that man's feet. I made it clear, and I'll say it openly. And when people go, "Ooh, Joe, you would sit at the feet of a gay man?" Yes, I would. If he was like Angelo Ellisby, I would sit at his feet and listen. Ellerby and listen. And I'm sorry, I mispronounced. I would sit at that man's feet and listen all day, because he gave supreme knowledge on how we elevate our community and make people's lives better.
That's all I'm saying. Just be who you are. You know, like when you said that just now, I had to think about it, because, you know, do I disagree with that lifestyle? I don't care. I don't do that. That's not what I partake in. And that's it. But, you know, I again, that's why I use the word fanatical. And I think it might've been Rhonda. I believe it was Rhonda Houston that said, yeah, Brother Fatine, a lot of people are fanatical. You become fanatical. And, and that's the problem. You turn people off every day, every minute. You want to talk this. And then when you talk it, sometimes you don't look in the mirror, that sometimes you're hypocritical as well. That's why I'm saying.
You are sinning. You are literally committing a sin in the manner that you try to promote the gospel. I think that's what the pastor said. And so
again, I'm talking about in any lifestyle. I'm not just picking on people that are religious. I'm saying it to everybody.
Right.
You know, I don't sit up here and talk the Holy Quran. I mean, I've studied the Old Testament, the New Testament, the Holy Quran. I've studied other books before the Bible. I've studied these things, and I utilize them when I do. But I don't put my lifestyle on y'all. I don't start preaching I don't do that, and I don't think nobody wants to be sharing that all the time. We've said that in our family. People come in and they caught. We had a God bless us all. I ain't gonna name him name. God toting Bible. And they're like, all right, eating dinner. I don't want to hear that at the damn dinner table. I don't need to hear about Jesus at this damn dinner table. That's when I say you fanatical in things. That's what I have a problem with.
Right. There's a time and place for everything.
Everything. That's all I'm saying. That's it. You know, that's why a lot of people can't be around certain people, because you lose your mind with them. You know what I'm saying? That's why I've learned that when I got around some prestigious people, and, you know, I remember the first time I got around, it was Reverend Sharpton, Reverend Jesse Jackson. We were all in the car together. It was the funniest thing. I ain't gonna go into the conversation, but I said, Reverend Jackson, you use those words. You use those words. He's look at me like, come on, you know. And that's what I'm saying. A lot of times we put people on a pedestal.
Right. Amen. Talk about that.
We deviate them to a point, or elevate them to a point, and they're human. And that don't mean that we say that it's okay to do wrong, but it says that we're human. And that's why I try to tell you, if I took a Bible in the bathroom, some people lose their damn mind. It's a book. Right. It's a book of words in ink. It's that's all it is. That's all it is. But anyway. I just think that was a good conversation. What else is in the news? We talk sports, we talk politics. Is there anything else out there that's going on that makes sense out there? What's TMZ talking about? What is TMZ? What is TMZ? What is TMZ talking?
What TMC talking about? Well, like I
But you know
said,
what? I got something. I got something
Come
real
on.
quick. So I
Bring it.
don't know the name of the show. Oh God, I wish I know the name of the show. Because a lot of us say that, we promote righteousness and we say a lot of messes on television. And I remember the Bad Girls Club because I used to watch. I talk righteousness. I talk about unity, but sometimes
Yeah, we watch some reality shows. We watch some reality
my
shows.
girl, we watch the Bad Girls Club.
Okay.
And now they got the baddies. That's what it's called. The baddies out there, and they be thumping. They be
thumping.
fighting. They be thumping.
I heard about it. I saw some stuff on social media. I have not watched the show. So this is an actual show that's on TV. What's it on? VH1?
The Bad Girls Club, the baddies, they get really down and dirty, baby.
What network are they on?
They knuckle. I don't watch it. I happen to come by my cousin's house. I don't watch it here. What I watch it. Yeah. So the question is, and I'm not asking why, but my question is because when I was doing Tangy Tea of Life the other night, and my brother Victor brought it up, when we brought the sheriff on to talk about important issues in the community, the viewership was not as large until we got into the conversation of mess. Why do we seem to like mess? Is it a way of just breathing and just woosahing? But for some reason, like I said, when it comes to mess, when Will Smith slapped Chris Rock, it was the talk of the town. When Cat Williams went on Club Shay Shay, it was the talk of the town. Nobody talked about VP Kamala Harris went on Club Shay Shay last week. You understand? You don't get the views that the mess gets. Why does the mess get all this viewership? Is it because a lot of us say we don't like mess, but we watch mess. A lot of us say we don't like mess, but we get caught up in mess, or we initiate mess. You understand? So what is it? Do you like mess or you don't like it? Because I'll be honest with you. I preach righteousness, but I can watch the Bad Girls Club, but I can decipher the difference from reality, what is real reality and what is fake reality. Those reality shows on television are fake reality shows, even though the fight's not made to be fake. They're not faking it like wrestling, and even wrestling, them blows ain't fake. The script is scripted. And what I'm saying is I know because there was a radio station that did a reality show, and some of that I saw it. It was scripted. It was scripted. Why is it that we tend to like a lot of mess? Because I'll be honest with you, we stir the pot. We're messy.
Right.
We're messy. We're messy people at times.
Very true.
And don't want to admit it.
Yeah, that's very true. It's 8 minutes to the top of the hour. Brother Fatim, I am happy to know that you got some days off, brother. Where are you going at in Tennessee? Where are you going in the great state of Tennessee?
I know where I'm going. I know that we had Dominique McFarlane on here when she came on to talk about the tragic loss of her two sons, a drowning accident back in 2016 at Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And she grieved. Like she said on this show, she got mad at God. This is a woman who's raised in the church, and she was mad at God, and she had to deal with it. But she said she could not live in that pain, because if she lived in that pain, even though she still experienced that pain, she could not experience still the love of God, even though that she misses her sons immensely. And she put a group together that, after going through certain courses and learning how to help other people grieve and get through the process of get on track to heal, she put a group together, a Hello Again group of those folks that have lost loved ones and come together. So she put this retreat together back in late July. We had to pay on it, and everything was paid up in August. And I don't know exactly the name of the retreat because I'm not driving. I'm a passenger, but I'm going because, I lost my wife, Hanifa. Right. It's a little different than tragically someone, especially a child, being snatched from you where they haven't reached their potential. Hanifa lived to her age of a decent age in sickle cell. She lived 18 years past the expected age of a person with sickle cell disease. And a lot of people, because of the expected age, it's just an expected age is an average, but
Right.
people live on. I mean, I knew somebody that almost reached 90 years old with sickle cell disease. So, but we're going to what part? I don't know where we're going to in Tennessee, but it's a retreat.
Okay.
And I'm going there to relax. I mean, I guess he got a couple of things worked out, but I ain't gonna, you ain't workshopping me to death. I'm going to chill. I'll be in the mountains somewhere. I have my thing on my hip. So if a bear come out, it's me and you, bear. Just realize.
If Smokey comes out
to knock you down, baby. Don't worry about that.
If Smokey come out, you got something to talk to him about.
I'll light him up. I'll light him up, baby. But on the serious side, you know, I don't know what's going to come out of this. I'm open. I've not done a lot of retreats, but I did something back in high school, and I was part of a peer group back in the days, at least in New York. We had peer groups and spark groups, and it was a group of young kids that we would come together, and we had a book, and it would give scenarios, and we would talk and bond. And everybody said there's a retreat that comes up every weekend, and when in a short period of time, in 2 days, Joe, when you get ready to leave the retreat, people tear up and cry. Man, I'm sitting up there macho like, man, that ain't happening to me. Why am I going up there meeting people for 2 days and I'm going to cry? Well, Brother Fatine. And I never forget, I met this girl, I met this female, and she went by the title, her title at the time, she was a butch. Tough little sister. In the group, she didn't want to open up, but she finally opened up and broke in tears. She became tight with me because I always could deal with the street person. I can deal with the thug kind of person. Dude, on that bus, when we got off, man, I cried, man, because the bond we made in a short period of time, you get time sometimes to meet people and they sometimes expose themselves. They break down that wall. And when a person can break down that wall, and you know you've built up a wall at times and it allows you to break down your wall, you build a bond. And sometimes a bond can take months, years, or a lifetime. Or sometimes a bond can take an hours or a couple of days. So I don't know what's going to come out of this retreat, but I've set it up to the point that I don't have to do too much work. I just got to do 1 hour of open line Sunday morning, no open line online this Sunday, because I'm going to Woosah. That's why I took off the day. We travel tomorrow, and then Saturday, and then Sunday we are headed back. That's why I have to take some time, because if we don't take time for ourselves, and I get passionate, man. No, my blood pressure be through the roof, bro.
Yeah. So family, tomorrow we'll have the best of #Truth Be Told. We'll be back Monday. Let me see. What is Monday's date? Hold on. I'll tell you in a second.
You should know what Monday's date is, the 4th, right?
Right.
What's election day? How you forget election day is the 5th?
No, it is the eve before.
It's Black Solidarity Day, y'all. See, y'all, they know that. Black Solidarity Day is Monday. Black Solidarity Day is Monday. If you don't know what Black Solidarity Day is, Google.
That's it. So it is Black Solidarity Day. It is the eve before Election Day. And family, enjoy your weekend. We'll be back on Monday for Make It Happen Monday. We appreciate all the people in the chat. We definitely want to give a big ups to Pastor Mike for taking time out and coming and being a part of this podcast today. Really appreciate the great conversation. And to everyone who is logged in, click like and share. Everybody who's out there. Of course, we are broadcasting not only on Facebook, but we're on YouTube and Instagram. You can definitely go to our YouTube page, which is at 100BLK Media, and catch all the prior podcasts. Brother Fatine, give me some closing words. Let's get out of here, man.
Let's stay up here together. Let's stay up together, because I don't have no magic words. So let me just say thank you, Joe, for creating this platform. When we used to do it in the evening, we didn't get the viewership. And we would do it on the night that I was also doing Tangy Tea, and you knew I would sacrifice. I would set up where we was doing Tangy Tea at one of the colleges down here in South Carolina, and I would do it there and then go into Tangy T. But I want to thank you and thank you for tolerating me sometimes, because you know I can go off at
We
times.
good, brother. Shoot.
But,
Both of us. Thank you for tolerating me.
I'll leave you with these closing words today. Sometimes we give our words, but sometimes it's good to hear what other people say. I got a call yesterday from a young lady, Sister Val. We call her Sweets. That's the name she goes by. And matter of fact, I'm gonna say this: our conferences are in, because I was talking with KC. KC can verify this because she was on. I conferenced her in on this call. And if KC wants to make a quick mention in here about what Sweet said, she said that Angelo Ellerby called her, said that the interview he did yesterday, it was only honestly told to be 20, 25 minutes yesterday. It went over an hour. He said it was one of the best interviews that he did. He felt that the conversation, he said it wasn't an interview, it was a conversation. And he went places that he didn't even expect to go. Those are sometimes you got to listen to what other people say. So we could say a lot, but I feel so proud and humble for Angelo that, again, sometimes we bring on people that we personally know. This brother has met a lot of people, and he talked about Dionne and Dionne Warwick and Melba Moore and all these other people, Michael Jackson, but he said they didn't make him who he is. They didn't. He talked about what made him who he is and the challenges that he went through. And he talked about God and how believing. He talked about his mother and how his mother didn't coddle him when he became a grown man. Look, baby, you ain't going to do it here. You ain't a kid no more. You're going to have to figure this out. Then he talked about my great friend, James Mtume, that I don't even give him his proper act. So I just want to let Joe and the family know that that's what Angelo said. He was just proud, but he was also flabbergasted, but appreciative of the type of interview that was done yesterday. And he reached out and said, make sure we get the addresses. I already emailed the addresses of you, Joe, Sister Jackson, myself, to receive his books. And I'm the kind of person that I'll purchase a book and give it away just to support him.
Amen.
Because I know him.
That's
and,
what I plan on doing too. That's what I plan on doing.
I'm not going to give away the book that he's autographing for us, because Angelo, like I said, it was time when Angelo, he didn't even speak about it. That I didn't know if Angelo was going to live or die. And he was able to come through the health challenges. And I'm so glad. But those are the words, is that we hear. Pastor Mike, thank you again, my brother. These are the people that I sit with. You just got to hear the conversation. He just hit the tip of the iceberg. You got to hear the conversations that he's had on with Reverend Sharp and throw some tough doozies at him. And you got to hear him, man. Or the callers call in. So that's why I'm saying these are the kind of people that we want to bring to you, that you can hear these conversations. You talk about Dr. King, but you got to listen to people that walk in the spirit of Dr. King, that understand Dr. King, who went to theology school. Like he said, a lot of people that are in the pulpit are not qualified to be in the pulpit. They're not qualified to wear a neck collar, or they're not qualified. You got to hear from qualified. They're not educated on that. You understand what I'm saying? And then there's some people that don't go to school and they have a calling, and their calling is different. It's more of a spiritual way. It's not from a book and quoting passages. It's about giving examples and living a lifestyle. That's what he said. Live what Jesus taught, not live what those that wrote about Jesus and follow them. That's why I criticize a lot of Christians that follow Paul in all this, because that wasn't Jesus. Don't give me no crap about some vision that Paul never, who was really known as Saul, changed his name to Paul. Some of y'all don't even know that. Never met Jesus. So I just tell you, wake up, do your studying and research out there, man, because it's a lot to learn. There's a lot to grasp. And the older we get And each day that we're blessed to see the sun come up, learn something. Because I say, if you don't learn something on that day, you was dead that day. Those are my final words.
Be better today than you were yesterday. Do something today that no matter what you do, no matter who you do it for, there's no earthly way that they could ever pay you back. And do it from the heart. Give it away freely. Don't expect anything back. And know that your blessings will come in some other means, some other form, some other way. Once again, thank you for all the guests, especially today, Pastor Mike, for coming on. Thank you for everybody who was in the chat. Thank you for everybody who was logged on. Remember, there is no secret, absolutely no secret what God can do. What he has done for others, he will and can do for you. For when God is with you, no one or nothing can stand against you. Be blessed. We'll see you on Make It Happen Monday. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your time of refreshing and vacation. We up out of here. Turn up Thursday.
One
Yes,
thing
sir.
real quick. KC said, yes, I can. Sweets, what I said at a conference in yesterday, is a beautiful sister. The words she said about Mr. Ellaby had me tearing up. He really loved being on the show and gave Brother Fatine his flowers. You ain't to say all that. You know, I've known Sister Sweets for a while, but you heard what KC said, had her tearing up, and what brother, she said, Mr. Ellaby said yesterday.
All right. So blessings.
Take us out, Joe. Give us some good music this morning.
Hey, we got chatter that matters, and we got conversation for every situation. So with that, y'all be blessed. We out. Peace.
That's 100. That's 100.